What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast, the Pittsburgh Steelers. What a headline-filled day for the black and gold. We're talking snakes on a plane. No, snakes in the locker room. Both Patrick Queen and Arthur Millette, two sides of the rivalry, have plenty to say and are dishing out, well, pretty much everything as the rivalry. It's Wednesday and is already red hot heading into an AFC North kitchen this weekend in week 11. It's Wednesday, so we're diving into power rankings and we'll answer all your questions as we do every single day. It's a great day here in the Berg. I'm going to get all my hair chopped off finally after today. I'm thinking of buzz cut. Totally joking there. I was waiting for a reaction. There was none. How you feeling, my friend?
No, I'm feeling like the buzz cut would go well, especially if you go back to the mustache. So, I'd like to see it. We're getting ready for the holidays, so there's still a couple of weeks that you could grow something out if you end up doing that.
That is true. We're going not going buzz cut. We're just going normal haircut, and then we're growing out. I'm probably going to look like you. To be very honest with you, we will look more like brothers than we already do, which will be very weird. But
I think it's time to shave now that I heard that.
I think at some point we embrace it. We start telling people we're related, and, we just roll with it and see how long we could get away with it until somebody goes, you guys have different last names. Yeah, he changed his marriage. I chose not to. We're the same. I think it could work. All right, let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. There are plenty of news and notes to dive into. I'm excited to get them rolling. First, I apologize, everybody, that we are a couple minutes late. Had some things to do real quick before we jumped on here. We're ready to roll. We got a long list of news and notes. Very excited. Headline-filled day for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nick, I'll toss it to you. What do we got?
Yeah, it's no surprise that the Pittsburgh Steelers have historically fared pretty well, at least as well as anybody else has against Lamar Jackson. And is there a secret? Well, Arthur Millette says not anymore, as the former Steelers cornerback decided that he wanted to unveil all of the Steelers' hidden gems on how they slowed down Lamar Jackson, saying, quote, "This is what they're trying to do with Lamar. They're going to put a person at the dive and they're going to run a person straight at Lamar and they're going to make him make a decision. So that's their game plan. One person goes to Lamar, one person goes to the dive." So Arthur Millette, little Agent Orange, secret agent on the other side, trying to burn all the Steelers' secrets before week 11 against the Ravens and the Steelers.
I like Arthur Millette. I thought Arthur Millette was a really good dude when he was in Pittsburgh. I enjoyed talking to him. I felt he was very professional and was just genuine. Like he was a dude who was going to tell it to you straight, who was going to understand that you had a job to do, and he was going to make sure that you were able to do that job correctly. At the same time, if you were going to go ask him dumb questions, he was going to give you dumb answers. And I respect that too. Don't ask dumb questions. Don't get dumb answers. I think Arthur Millette in the villain term of things has really changed, and I like it. I appreciate it. I think Arthur Millette's always been built to be the villain of a rivalry, and the Pittsburgh Steelers Baltimore Ravens rivalry is a good one. And I bet this was taken in one of two ways. Either it was super sarcastic and you read it in print and it's totally different, or he was very genuine and he was like, I already know what's going down. And I really hope it was sarcasm, because if it was straightforward, I think anybody on the street could have told you that. What are you going to do to stop Lamar Jackson? Well, when they run the option, they're going to run somebody right at Lamar, and then they're probably going to also have somebody try to stop Derrick Henry. What? Are you serious? You really think that's going to happen? Yeah, I don't think he gave away much. I enjoy whenever somebody from one side dives into this rivalry and jumps in on the other side and says, like, hey, I got the hidden secret, man. The hidden secret's been working well. And I don't think anybody who watched film in Baltimore this week, last year, doesn't matter, ever sat around and went, how are they stopping Lamar Jackson? What are they doing here? And was watching the film and just completely missed that Well, it was somebody running at Lamar Jackson and somebody running at the other guy who could possibly get the football. Don't think he gave much away there, but I do love the spiciness that he brings to stuff like that. It just, you need that, you need the villains. To be honest with you, Baltimore's defense doesn't have any villains anymore. They got Marlon Humphrey, who's a damn good one, damn good villain. Kyle Hamilton, I still think is too nice of a person. Roquan Smith is way too nice of a person. It was Patrick Queen. Now he's on Pittsburgh's side. You need those guys. And I like that Arthur Millet's stepping up and saying somebody's got to be a bit of a jerk here, and I'm cool being it. So shout out to Arthur Millet. Always enjoyed him. Always enjoyed his company. Gave literally nothing away in that.
You speak of Patrick Queen. He had some things to say today about this rivalry as well when everybody asked him about what this week means to him, because that is going to be one of the biggest storylines going into Sunday's game. He simply said, quote, "I wasn't wanted back in Baltimore. I didn't get an offer to come back to Baltimore. It's definitely kind of upsetting being there for 4 years, the bond that you grow with your teammates. But at the end of the day, the first few months, you definitely go through those feelings. Now, after playing games, you just go by and you just want to go win games." So Patrick Queen, not thinking about it too much, but certainly saying, hey, they didn't want me back, and just know that that is in the back of my mind as I line up against you this weekend.
Yeah, I like that he's using the fuel with the fire. You saw people on Twitter from Baltimore, kind of insiders and reporters over there, saying that's not what Baltimore does, man. If they don't want you, if they feel that you're going to go elsewhere no matter what, if they can't afford you, they're not going to make a save face offer. They're just going to let you go. They're going to move on. They're going to do things, and I guess sometimes that comes back to bite them in the butt. I loved it. I also love that Patrick Queen is a dude who is the most soft-spoken human being ever, like to ever exist. You could be me to this coffee away, and you are sitting there going, I kind of know what he's saying, but I'm not 100% certain what's coming out of his mouth right now. That's how soft-spoken Patrick Queen is, but full of aggression. And I just, that's got to fire everybody up. That's got to get the juices flowing. I don't think there is anybody in this entire rivalry this weekend on either side, no matter how many times you've played it, that has more on the line than Patrick Queen. That is, and I think everybody would agree with that. There's nobody that's sitting around with more juice, more fuel to the fire, more to prove, more people to shut up than Patrick Queen. And the fact that he didn't get an offer from Baltimore, I mean, just adds to that fire. It is flaming right now. And I mean, I love that. I hope he comes in here and continues to play as well as he played last week against the Commanders. I think that's the other good part of this, is that he's a dude who started to turn on last week, and you're hoping that he could continue to turn on this week when he takes on his former team. You got to hope that he could can play aggressive and mindful at the same time. But I'm all about it. I don't think anybody in this rivalry has more to lose than Patrick Queen. And I mean, you got to be excited that he's on the Pittsburgh Steelers side with this much to lose and this much to gain.
Yeah. I mean, that was in his introductory press conference with the Steelers. He said, I'm ready to play the villain in this rivalry. And it was pretty loud from the Baltimore side of things in response to that, basically saying, oh, well, they didn't want you back for good reason. You never pay a guy like you that much money. So it got really loud from the Baltimore fan base. I know that it's going to get real interesting whenever the Steelers visit Baltimore, but he has had this circled on his calendar since the schedule came out. And he probably said, man, I would have loved to have this earlier in the season so I could really put my stamp on being a Pittsburgh Steeler. But with last week's game, his best in a Steelers uniform, this is a chance to continue to grow and continue to kind of build up that momentum in the second half of the season. I'm excited to see what he comes out there and does, especially because he's going to be big in that plan to stopping Lamar Jackson, because that's what the Steelers wanted out of Patrick Queen. That's what the Steelers wanted out of drafting Peyton Wilson. They wanted guys that can go sideline to sideline. It's going to be a big week for him trying to keep Lamar Jackson in check, and I think it's going to go a long way and how successful the Steelers defense is in slowing down a guy who's on his way to potentially being a 3-time NFL MVP.
Yeah, it is going to be a challenge, definitely a tall task. I like that Baltimore talked and that everybody came out here and had their criticisms of Patrick Queen, because there's just one thing you don't do to an NFL player, and that's talk smack, man, because you're doing nothing but giving him bulletin board material. I'm excited to see what he does. I'll be rooting for Patrick Queen this weekend.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about the Baltimore Ravens matchup, but there was a story that came out today about last week's matchup against the Washington Commanders, and it had nothing to do with the players on the field. It had nothing to do with the game itself. It had nothing to do with really the field itself, but more so the facilities. In a sneak peek for the newest episode of Not Just Football with Cam Hayward, Steelers defensive lineman Cameron Hayward revealed that the team had a snake visit them in the visitors' locker room, temporarily sending everybody into a bit of a frenzy. This is the exact quote from Cam Hayward. Before the game, I go out, warm up, come back in, and everybody is a little bit shocked when I came in. I said, "What's going on?" There was a snake in our locker room, a snake. And it was coming from the bottom of Russell Wilson's locker. Everybody thrown through a loop, a snake in our locker room. He continues to say it. I'm surprised. He's a big movie guy. I'm surprised he didn't reference Sam Jackson and Snakes on a Plane. But it's obviously, he tries to keep it safe for work over there, the Not Just Football podcast. But interesting that the Steelers had a little bit of extra to deal with at the Washington Commanders Stadium.
That's just so crazy to me. And it is crazy in two different angles. It's crazy in the just general, what? I've seen rats run through the Pittsburgh Steelers facility. I have never once in my life seen a snake just like pop out and go, "What's up, pal?" and then go back, especially under Russell Wilson's, like how that doesn't affect people, how nobody freaks out, how like it's not like, I'm surprised like Russell Wilson's security guard or some random Pittsburgh Steelers security guard didn't just dive on this thing the second it popped its head out, going, "Protect Russ, we got to protect Russ." Like, my second thought is Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick, like,
what are we doing?
They probably got a little excited. Both of them country boys, they were like, "Ooh, snake hunting before a game? Are you kidding me? A little snake hunting?" Jeez. Yeah, I don't know what they do in South Dakota, man, but I would imagine they hunt snakes. I would just, if somebody asked, "What do you do in South Dakota?" I say, "I don't know, hunt stuff." Snakes would be on that list, most likely. I don't know where they were. The third angle to this one, it's been 48, almost 3 full days since that game. How?
Not a single mention.
How does nobody bring this up? Like, how do you win a football game by 1 point and not mention that before the game you had the distraction of a snake in the locker room? What? I was told that Ben Skoranek told one reporter after the game, and the reporter thought he was joking. He was just like, "What do you?" That can't be real. So he didn't include it and moved on. How it didn't come out. I mean, I talked to Chris Halleck, sat down in the Pittsburgh Steelers cafeteria today, and I said, "What's up, dude? How was DC?" He said, "Good." I said, "Did you run into any snakes?" He said, I don't even know what that means. That's how in the dark everybody's been about this snake thing. Wild. Yeah. Absolutely wild that a snake was. What happens if it bites Russell Wilson? Just what do you do there? Do you just down there? Are there snakes everywhere?
I could be completely honest. I've lived here for 4 years. I don't think I've seen a single snake, but at the same time, I live in Alexandria. They're in Landover, Maryland. That is backwoods. And we already know the extensive history of FedEx Field. I mean, backwoods comparatively. It's obviously, but like it's in the middle of nowhere. So they've had their issues in the past, and snakes is certainly a new one for them. But funny that they were just like, "Oh, okay, there's a snake. I guess we just got to," I think Cam said, "make that part of our mantra of just play through." And it's like, that's crazy. And of course, to come out of Russell Wilson's locker, you have to think, has Justin got something to do with this? Is Justin a snake charmer back there saying, "I want another start, guys"? Like,
just one. Just give me. I think I could beat these guys. I got it. Let me go. That's the wildest in-season story that we will hear all season, I believe. Snake, and that gets no attention. Snakes in a locker room? Like, what are we doing? How does that even? Where did it come from?
You also mentioned Frazier and McCormick potentially hunting it. It could have been their pet. I mean, Zach Frazier could have been like, "Yeah, that's Georgie. Like, what are we doing? Sorry, I guess he got out of his cage. Like, I could see Zach Frazier being a guy that's like, yeah, I got a pet snake at home.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like, West Virginia and South Dakota are, I would guess, similar. And I don't know what goes on in either, but I know there are animals involved. And that makes a lot of sense. Wild story. I can't believe it made it till Wednesday morning. And would have went further if Cam Hayward, if they did not release that clip. Would have went until tomorrow. That is mind-boggling to me. But shout out, snakes in the locker room, man. Snakes in the locker room.
Now, we looked back. We've looked at this week. Let's look super far forward, which is what Jeremy Fowler of ESPN is doing. He was talking a little bit on ESPN about who are the best upcoming free agents. And of course, whenever anybody's going to talk about free agents, they're going to talk about the two Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks. And Jeremy Fowler said, well, the Steelers, they might not be able to retain Justin Fields next year. Quote, the Fields experiment in Pittsburgh can be classified as a success. He played steady, if unspectacular football in 6 games as the starter, winning 4 of them. So a return can't be completely taken off the table at this point, but Russell Wilson's quality play since taking over the job could force Fields to look elsewhere. What are your thoughts on this from Jeremy Fowler saying, listen, the Steelers, they got what they wanted out of Justin Fields, but he might want a little bit more out of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all. I think the most surprising part was he could get a Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield situation because they went to Carolina and had to compete for a starting job. And I'm sorry, but I don't think Justin Fields goes anywhere and competes for a starting job next year. I think he gets the starting job no matter where he goes. That's the only thing that I looked at and said, what are we talking about? But I do agree, and I think this just kind of put another stamp on everything that I've been told, everything I've tried to tell you guys, is that they'll keep one of them. That one is most likely going to be Russell Wilson, and there are only 2 instances where that changes. The first one is the Steelers just suddenly stink, and this season turns to a flaming ball of crap, and Russell Wilson loses the job between now and week 18. And number 2 is Russ goes out in the blades of glory and rides off into the sunset and says, I'm a champion in Pittsburgh. I've done what I needed to do. We're going home, and calls it a day, goes and spends his time with Sierra and the kids, and Mr. Unlimited packs it up and hangs the cleats up one last time. And then boom, the Pittsburgh Steelers are saying, well, Justin, come on, pal, you're next. You're that guy. Those are the only 2 instances where I see Justin Fields returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Otherwise, this is very much so Russell Wilson's job now and in the future. I'll ask you this. Is there any part of you that feels the risk is not worth the reward? If you could keep Russ for 3 seasons, by the time he's done, he'll be pushing 40.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that a risk you're willing to take, just judging off of this season alone?
I think that as of right now, no, because it's a 3-week sample size. But if he continues to play as he has, and he goes out and plays and wins playoff games, then yeah, I think you're more inclined to say, all right, we'll keep going with Russell Wilson, just because that's the level at which he has taken this team. I mean, they were good under Justin Fields, and don't get me wrong, I'd love it if the Steelers could bring back Justin Fields, and even if they push this to another year and say, Justin, you can come back and you can be the backup again, but he deserves a starting job. He earned a starting job, but because of the level that we've seen Russell Wilson take the Steelers team to, it's Russ's job in Pittsburgh right now. And that's unfortunate for Justin Fields. It's unfortunate because I really wanted to see Justin be that future QB1 of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's earned himself a starting job somewhere else. There's 32 of these jobs every year, and every year there's about 6 or 7 that come up for grabs at the end of the year. You're telling me the Las Vegas Raiders wouldn't like to go from Gardner Minshew to Justin Fields behind center? Somebody is going to offer this guy a lot more money and a lot more opportunity, which is unfortunate because I think he's a perfect fit in Pittsburgh, but he does deserve his flowers and he does deserve that opportunity. I just think that with the way that Russ has played, he's already kind of taken this for himself in Pittsburgh.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. I do think there's some risk associated with it because he's an aging quarterback. And, if you get him for one more good year, awesome. You could have Justin for 10, and what's the difference there? Well, the difference there could be in 10 years, you can win 0 Super Bowls, and one more year you can win 1. And Well, that's a massive difference. Massive difference. But I do think there is some risk reward associated with this decision. That being said, we don't make that call. We just speculate what that call will be, and we're pretty confident that call is going to be Russell Wilson. Shout out. Is that all we got?
Yeah, that's all we got for news and notes. We do have very interesting power rankings coming up, and I'm excited to hear you unveil them.
With that, we will dive in to our Week 11 power rankings. I am excited for this list. It is massive shakeups, and I won't lie to you, I had trouble with number 1 because TJ Watt is TJ Watt, man, but he did little to nothing against the Washington Commanders. It's not the first time he's done little to nothing all season. That being said, he's done more than anybody else in the entire National Football League more than once this season, and because of that, you weigh the odds. My number 1 was tough, was very tough, and I think the rest of the list was tough as well. We'll start off with honorable mention. Just missed the list, backed up off the list for the first time this season, was at one point number 2. Was at one point number 2 for a long time, my friend. Long time. He's now sitting probably number 6. That is Deshaun Elliott. And I know, downfall. I texted somebody, I had a good buddy of mine down in Miami today, say, yo, how's am I okay to classify Deshaun Elliott as a good player this season? I said, you could classify Deshaun Elliott as an excellent player, possibly the second best defensive player in Pittsburgh this season. That's what you could classify him as. That being said, this list is getting jam-packed, and now that people are moving, guys are excelling. You got a quarterback, you got a wide receiver, you got other defenders making plays. I mean, it's getting jam-packed in this top 5, and Deshaun Elliott, my friend, just hasn't come up with enough splash in the past couple of weeks for me to say, okay. New York Giants, he had some splash. New York Jets, he had some splash. New York Giants, no splash. Washington Commanders, no splash. Need some splash. Because of that, he is number 6 on this list, which brings us to number 5. Dropping down from number 2 a week ago, and look at it's all off of a week to week, but full body performance here. And full body says phenomenal. Week to week says you dealt with an ankle injury. You got beat up a little bit. The Washington Commanders shut down your offensive line and therefore your running game, but you still put up 60 yards and scored a touchdown. And nobody should be complaining about the effort that you put on the field on Sunday in Week 10's victory. Number 5 is Najee Harris. He continues to land in this top 5. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to rely on this guy, whether he's rushing for 130 yards or rushing for 60. And he killed my bold predictions. I will bite that one and take that loss. But I still think he has a body of work right now that is impressive. And at any moment, Najee Harris can carry a team. And I think that if he had better blocking, I think that if the Washington Commanders didn't win the line of scrimmage, he would have had one hell of a game against the Commanders this past weekend. Najee Harris is number 5. Number 4, 2 sacks. Mr. cannot get old. Mr. Father Time, no chance, pal. Cam Hayward is unstoppable right now at the age of 35. He is doing things 35-year-olds don't do. We've said this before. I'll probably say it again. Ndamukong Suh. Give me other great one. Vince Wilfork, the old guys, the old heads that would come and go and jump in for 3 games at the end of the season and then a playoff run. And that's what they were doing at 33, 34, 35 years old, making an impact, playing right in the middle, not doing much else. Cam Hayward saying, I'm 35 years old. I'll play every snap. Come up with 2 sacks in games, run all over the place, make some plays, keep my team alive. That's what I'll do. Cam Hayward is an absolute monster right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Has been one all season. He's Cam Hayward, man. And he's playing at 35, probably close to an all-pro level. And if there weren't names like Dexter Lawrence this season, if there weren't names like, I don't know, I'd have to come up with another defensive tackle. Go ahead. You got one.
I was going to say Dexter Lawrence might just be enough. I mean,
that is enough.
Somebody taking him away.
No, he's going to get first team all pro, and where does Cam Hayward? He might be number 2 there. He might be number 2 on that list. Cam Hayward is unbelievable, and he's number 4 on my list. We're getting into 2 offensive and 1 defensive player to round this top 3 out. Number 3, since Russell Wilson has taken over, this guy has caught for 111 yards, 74 yards, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. And against the Washington Commanders, when things seemed down, when it was getting a little bit gloomy for the Pittsburgh Steelers, 10-point game, not feeling great. Worries are rising. George Pickens, he's just jumping up and punching people in the face, man. He's tackling people on Hail Mary interceptions. He's making crazy touchdown catches. And even crazier than that is he's catching footballs, making guys miss, getting an extra 5-10 yards, and getting up and just getting rowdy. And that's what you love to hear. George Pickens is number 3, man. He is, we said it yesterday, top 5 wide receiver in the NFL right now. He's playing at a whole other level. He is the guy that Pittsburgh Steelers wanted him to be. He's the reason that you went out and got Mike Williams, not because you needed another star, but because when George Pickens is hot, he can't be stopped. And how much better can this offense be when you got George Pickens and another guy that you can rely on at any times? The Steelers are excited to find out. George Pickens is unstoppable right now. Let me just read off some stat lines beforehand. Since his last 100-yard game against the Indianapolis Colts, it's 26 yards, 53 yards, no touchdowns at any point throughout the season beforehand. And then Russell Wilson comes in here and, well, he's averaging nearly 20 yards a catch per game with 2 touchdowns, including a massive, crazy one, and would have had more if, well, penalties weren't a thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. George Pickens is number 3. Number 2, this is where I had some trouble. This is where I had trouble. It came down to 2 guys, one of them being TJ Watt, obviously. Who's 2? Who's 1? Who's playing the best? Who's got the biggest sample size and the most impressive sample size? And that's what broke this down for me. Number 2 is Russell Wilson. And there's an argument for number 1. There's an argument for number 1. Because if Russ continues to play the way Russ has played, if Russ continues to win football games the way he has won football games for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the MVP finalists this season will say Lamar Jackson, winner, most likely, and then Russell Wilson sitting there at number 2, maybe number 3, because, man, this guy is on a tear. He has found the fountain of youth. Somebody call Aaron Rodgers and say it's not jalapeno sauce in a water bottle or whatever he was drinking from the punter. It is just simply whatever Russell Wilson and Mr. Unlimited is doing the last 3 weeks. He has the Pittsburgh Steelers red hot right now. He is the reason they're winning football games. He is the reason that they are a completely different looking team the last 3 weeks. And you had questions in week 2 and week 1 saying, it's the Jets, it's the Giants, whatever. The Commanders are a real football team with real wins and real impressive players. And Russell Wilson said, I'll put the game on my back. I'll come back from 10 points. I will make great throws, and I'll find Mike Williams 9 plays deep for 1 reception, 32 yards, and a touchdown to say, chef's kiss. Shout out to Zach Frazier and Russell Wilson for having tells for Johnny Newton to say, oh, they're definitely going to snap the ball on this one and then jumping off sides. That happens with a veteran, and I think it's overlooked. Russell Wilson is number 2, which leaves us at number 1. The man himself, TJ Watt, cannot be beat. I get it. He hasn't had that crazy game in a little bit, but it's coming, and the body of work is there. TJ Watt has still got to be the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. People will say MVP candidate. I can't argue it. I think he's going to start moving around more. I think what he's doing to open guys up like Alex Highsmith is so underrated where we stand currently. TJ Watt is freaking stoppable this season. And one bad game to me, one quiet game, won't even say bad, because he's an interception on a tip ball away from this being a totally different conversation. He's a Jane Daniel is 130 pounds soaking wet, but has the elbow strength of an elephant away from this being a totally different conversation. And while he was quiet, he's still impactful. TJ Watt is number 1. That's my list. Najee Harris, Cam Hayward, George Pickens, Russell Wilson, and TJ Watt. Deshaun Elliott makes his way out the list. Patrick Queen and Alex Highsmith are right there on the verge as well, I would say. Right there with D. Elliott. Your thoughts on this one? Najee Harris, Cam Hayward, George Pickens, Russell Wilson, TJ Watt. Week 11 power rankings.
I'll tell you, I had to do a double take and then a triple take and then 4 takes to say, where was Deshaun Elliott when you sent this over? And I was like, all right, I guess he's not on the list. Remember, Deshaun Elliott is the only player not named TJ Watt to ever clock in at number 1 on these power rankings. So him falling out of the top 5, I mean, for one, it shows you just how good the offense has been. And I love the fact that the offense is getting love, because for the first probably 6 weeks of these power rankings, there was no offensive players to be found. I mean, every once in a while, Justin Fields would pop up there. Every once in a while, I believe it was Calvin Austin popped up there after a good game, but it was few and far between, and it was typically 3 to 4 defensive players. Now we're seeing this offense get going. I mean, that is a credit to so many names, but of course, topping that list has to be Russell Wilson. The way that he has come in, and as we talked about earlier, just changed the entire vibe and atmosphere around this Steelers offense. I mean, let's go back in the 3 games that he's played. How many points have the Steelers scored? And why is it becoming more normalized? Because they didn't do that at all under Matt Canada. So, I mean, you need to give props where props is due to Russell Wilson, to Arthur Smith, props to the offensive line, because the rushing attack has been well. But, I mean, let's just look at it. 37 points against the Jets, 26 against the Giants, 28 against the Washington Commanders, 25 plus points a game for Russell Wilson. He doesn't know anything under that.
Crazy.
And that is what we have lived with for 3 years. So yes, the respect is due to Russell Wilson, and the respect is due to those 2 playmakers, and George Pickens and Najee Harris. So I have no qualms with your power rankings whatsoever.
No, and I want it to be known, Deshaun Elliott, nothing disrespectful here. Nothing at all. No bad play, no nothing. Just the offense is on fire right now. They are carrying this team, and therefore they should be acknowledged and will be acknowledged where we stand here currently. We'll dive into questions here in a second. While we're diving into questions, I need you to look something up for me, okay?
Okay.
How many times did Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky score more than 20 points in a ball game? Because I don't believe it's going to be very many, and I would imagine it's very low. Did it come up that fast?
No, I'm still searching it up. So give me a second.
Right. With that said, we're going to dive into all your questions. So if you got them, toss them in the chat. We will get to as many as we possibly can. First, we're going to take a quick break here from our boys over at Game Time. Guys, there is no better place to be during football season than at a Pittsburgh Steelers game. And now, Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I, as everybody knows, am going to see Creed in a couple of weeks, and it was effortless finding my tickets on Game Time. Why? Because they lay everything out for you. All-in pricing shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkouts. Seat views means that you get to see a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you ever buy the tickets. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Shout out our boys over at Game Time. I actually used Game Time today. And I won't lie to you, maybe we'll get in trouble for this one. I definitely created a new email account, or used one of the 75 email accounts that we currently have for the business, and used our promo code, and it worked. So shout out to Game Time. Bought my Shane Gillis tickets today. Yeah.
I saw you put that on your Instagram story, so I was like, I'm sure he's gonna get tickets.
Oh, had to. Texted all the boys back home. Said, "You coming to Shane Gillis?" And they all said, "Yes, I am." And I'll say this: when you go to Shane Gillis's website, it takes you to Ticketmaster. You go to Ticketmaster because you're just gonna do what they say. I was 10,000th in the queue. 10,000th in the queue. Went to Game Time, bought them in 2 seconds. Took me no time at all. So those 10,000 people waiting before me, I hope you went to Game Time. I hope you went to Game Time, and I hope you used our code all Steelers. Shout out, pumped for some Shane Gillis. Won't lie to you, pumped. All right, hit me with the stat.
Oh, it's just as fun as you would expect it to be. So we said
I
Russell
thought it
Wilson
would
in
be.
3 weeks has gone over 25 points in every single game.
Yes.
Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett combined for 3 games over 25. And it gets better. It gets better. The
That's
first
so
time was a
bad.
37-30 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. That was the one game that
Yes.
Pickett went off at Heinz Field. The next one was a 28-14 win over the Cleveland Browns in week 18 of Kenny Pickett's rookie season. So playing a lot of backups in that game against Cleveland.
Yes.
And the last one was a 26-22 win over the Cleveland Browns in week 2, where the defense scored multiple touchdowns.
Twice.
So
including the game winner. A walk-off by TJ Watt. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So that's it. So Russ, let's just say, when I say we haven't seen this, I mean, we have not seen this for 2 years.
Yeah, that's crazy, actually. I was expecting 5, 6. 3 is wild, my friends. Wild. Shout out. There were a lot of people that said, what are you doing getting rid of Kenny Pickett? Why did you get rid of Kenny Pickett? Are we sure it's Matt Canada? We sure Matt Canada is the issue? Yeah, there was a couple. There was a couple. I got people, man. I had somebody, I'll tell this story. I had somebody call me multiple times. I don't know how they got my number. I used to give my number away. I don't give my number away anymore. And it's nothing personal to anybody. It's just, people spook me out, man. I had a guy who got my number. I did not give him my number. I don't know who this man is. Couldn't tell you. He called me multiple times. I answered the first time. He cursed me out. And I said, pal, I don't know who you are, but I would appreciate it if you don't call me again. Thank you very much. All because I was bagging on Matt Canada too much. That was the problem. Then he'd call me again. He called me a number of times, leaving me voicemails about how much I was ripping on Matt Canada and how I was wrong for ripping on Matt Canada. Turns out I was right. Hope this guy is watching the podcast. Shout out, pal. Shout out. Shout out. You got my number, bro. Text me again. Let me know what your thoughts are on Matt Canada. That's a good one. I've been holding that one in for a long time. The only one that ever knew that actually was my brother, because he was here one time when it happened. I said, yo, listen to this guy's voicemail. And it was just this full yinzer. Hey, nah. Like, what's up? What's up? And then the wife. All right, with that said, we're going to dive into some questions. If you got them, toss them in the chat. We'll get to as many of them as we possibly can. Nick, what do we got?
Yeah, let's start it off with Jason Cole. Appreciate you as always. Jason says, can Patrick Queen play with controlled aggression, or do you think he'll try to do too much and end up costing the Steelers on Sunday?
I don't think he'll cost the Steelers. A controlled aggression will be very important for him. I don't think he'll be costly, but you're spot on that if he is controlled, if he's just focused on the game plan and make the plays that come to me, don't make too many plays, don't play hero ball, he plays a lot better and he will play a lot better. But I think Patrick Queen is very good. That's the first thing here. Patrick Queen is a very good football player. Patrick Queen knows how to win. He's done it for a long time. And you put those together, I know that he hasn't been playing his best football for the Steelers all season long, but he played really well against the Commanders, and he played really well in Baltimore. And you just got to think that he's got the potential to play really well against the Ravens. So I would put my money on Patrick Queen playing well before I put it on Patrick Queen messing up.
Let's go over to Matthew, who checks in with the Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields offseason conversation. Says, I bet Russ takes a discount so they keep Justin. Do you think money has anything to do with it, or do you think it's more so opportunity than it is paying both of them?
Yeah, it's more opportunity. It doesn't come down to paying both of these guys. I think Russ will still take a hometown discount. I think it'll be just Russ wants to play until he's 40. He said that to me. He said that to other people a bunch of times. And that's 4 more years of football, 3 more years of football. Justin doesn't want to wait on the bench for 3 more years. He'll want to go somewhere with an opportunity to start right now. He'll get that opportunity elsewhere, most likely. That's what will be the difference. It won't come down to money. If it did, I agree with you. I think Russ would take a discount to have Justin here, but that's not what it's going to come down to. It's going to be opportunity, and the Steelers just won't have it for him.
Let's go over to Cody, who checks in with the Arthur Millett discussion that we talked about. Says, wouldn't it be impossible to give anything away? Because both teams have changed so much. Do you think it's going to be a game that's 1st to 13, or do you think it's a shootout?
Oh, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think it's going to be 13 because the Ravens defense is bad, but the Steelers defense is also playing pretty bad right now. I would say it's more of a Washington game. There are plays made. Maybe it's not 27. Maybe it's like 23-22, 24-23. But this is going to be an offensive heavy game, and the defense is going to have to make some plays. I expect the Steelers defense to make more plays than Baltimore's, but Marlon Humphrey's got a track record against Pittsburgh, and I get it. Juju Smith-Schuster is not here anymore, and he was the victim of it more than once. But there are guys that Marlon Humphrey could take advantage of, and you got to think he's looking to. So I would say a low scoring shootout in the early or the low 20s. That's the word I'm looking for. Low 20s would be my guess.
Let's jump over to Heath, who says, what will it take to re-sign Najee Harris? Can or will it happen?
I love this question. Thank you, Heath, man. Thank you. It will take probably $9 to $10 million a season. That's what it will take. And is that impossible? No, definitely not impossible. It can happen. The Steelers can make it happen. The problem is that it probably won't happen because Najee's 26 years old. He'll be 27 next season. You're getting real close to the end of whatever run you could be on. The Pittsburgh Steelers value this stuff, but Omar Khan is more of a new school GM than an old school GM. And he's going to see it and say, we could go draft another Najee Harris. We could go get another guy that we think is just as good. And I'm not saying that I agree with that. I'm just saying that's probably going to be their mindset. I don't think it's impossible for Najee to come back. It's not like Najee will just say, screw you guys, I'm never coming back here. No chance. But I think it's going to cost a lot of money, and I don't know if the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be willing to fork it over.
Let's go over to Jeremy, who says, with the way things have panned out with Russ and George Pickens' newfound attitude/production, do you still think we let him walk when his contract is up?
George Pickens?
That's what I'm assuming he's going for. Yep.
Yeah, you called me here. You definitely got me here because we go back couple months, couple of weeks. George is out. He's done. I would imagine he's getting traded, so on and so forth. I will say George's attitude has changed, and George's attitude in the locker room has changed. From what I've heard, George's attitude towards being a professional has taken steps forward, and maybe a lot of that is Russell Wilson. He's never had leadership in the locker room. This is the first time he's gotten it. Maybe Russ is the kryptonite or the antidote to George Pickens' personality character issues, and maybe they could be solved. I think it's too early to tell right now, but I agree, and I'm glad that you called me on this. My mindset has changed from when we last talked about this, certainly.
Let's go over to the next question here. Haven't gotten a chance to catch a live, but always catch the replay. Question: do you think once the Chiefs lose, their downside will continue, giving the Steelers a real chance of beating them on Christmas Day?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I do think that's a possibility. I think when the Chiefs lose, it begins the losing. The Chiefs are a bridge that is. This is a bad example because we live in Pittsburgh. This could happen at any time. The Chiefs are a bridge that are rocking, my friend. It is not stable. It is shaking crazy, and they're just waiting for something to fall. And once it falls, is it going to come tumbling down? Who knows? I think there's a possibility. The Chiefs are not a good-looking football team right now. They just win games, and that's important, but you got to wonder, how many games they lose once they stop winning games, and maybe the Steelers are one of those games. I think there's a possibility. They lose to the Steelers either way. I wouldn't predict it, but I think there's a possibility.
Yeah, it's a much better version of that 11-0 Steelers team that ended up losing in the first round of the playoffs to the Cleveland Browns.
It's an 11-0 Steelers team that has Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid.
That's why I say it's a much better version of that, but still a version that you're like, okay, they haven't lost, but are they really as dominant as 9-0 would say? So no, they aren't. So what happens when they lose? Maybe they get better. Maybe they finally lose that game and all of a sudden they're like, that's what we needed. Cool. That's great.
Maybe. There's the NFL is different. It used to be, there always used to be those teams that were 8-0, 9-0. That never happens anymore. And the Chiefs just seem to be hanging on by a thread to continue it, but it will come. It will come.
Let's jump over to X Concepts, who says, why do you think Terrell Edmunds can't stay on a roster? Usually highly athletic guys like him make great special teamers, and he's also always healthy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Edmunds is a really good backup. I think Edmunds could be a safety 3 and be very productive. He's been a safety 3 and has been very productive. The safety position's just weird. Like every year, there's so much shift in it, and guys that you don't think should be off a roster are off a roster. And I mean, maybe it's because the talent is just so good and growing, or maybe it's because the longevity of these players. Who knows? I have no idea. Maybe it's only that there's only 2 and really you only use 3 on a roster. But I was just as shocked that they let him go. I was even more shocked that they didn't bring him back to the practice squad, and more shocked from there that he didn't get signed elsewhere to the practice squad, because he's a reliable player that you could count on to be healthy and should be a backup somewhere.
Let's jump on over to Chef Rusty Daddy, who says, do you agree that it benefits the Steelers being hometown dogs this weekend? We lose games we're supposed to win, and we outperform expectations when we're projected to lose. Hometown dogs for the win this weekend.
I do think it helps. I think that's bulletin board material. I do believe that somehow, I hope that Hard Knocks gets the speech of Mike Tomlin just saying and going off about how the Pittsburgh Steelers have a better record than the Baltimore Ravens, and hopefully there's a slideshow of just, they're below the Ravens in this power rankings. They're below the Ravens in this power rankings. This person predicted that they lose the AFC North. This person predicted that they lose the AFC North. Like, it is crazy how much better the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing than the Ravens right now, just collectively. And the Ravens are still viewed as this like big giant powerhouse, and the Steelers are not. Like, I get it, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, 2 different quarterbacks, and it comes down to respect, but people got to start respecting Russ, man, because if they did, people would not be talking about the Steelers in a negative light compared to the Baltimore Ravens. But yes, I do think it gives them an advantage.
Let's go over to Cody Silva, who has a question that you kind of answered yesterday a little bit. It says Najee Harris did not practice today, something that you predicted would end up happening.
Yeah, Najee's not going to practice all week long. He's dealing with an ankle injury. It's not a big deal. You know, he underwent an MRI. I would imagine they keep him off the field all week long, and then he's good to go on Sunday. Maybe they list him as questionable just to mess with the Ravens, but Najee will play on Sunday. I did not expect him to practice all week long. This has happened before. Najee is not somebody who needs to practice to play on Sunday, and the Steelers will do everything they can to keep him healthy, with the full understanding that it's Najee Harris. He's superhuman. He will play, and they need him out there to win.
I was a little concerned that we weren't going to get a question from one of my favorite screen names, but here we are. Unlimited Moonball says, are you still holding out hope for a Justin Fields package debut? The question was also asked earlier by Roger Murray. So any hope that Justin Fields package makes a debut on Sunday against the Ravens?
I hope so. I don't know. I'm losing faith as we go each week. I'm losing faith. I know it's coming. I've been told it's coming. I haven't been told by Mike Tomlin saying always anticipated in a press conference. I've been told by people that you can trust. It's coming, man. It's coming. But I don't know when that coming is, and I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know. I'm holding on. I'm an optimistic human being. I'm trying to stay optimistic that this is going to happen. When? I don't know. But I mean, would you disagree with me that this is not the best week to do it? Like, toss him on the field and say, Hey, pal, you got a running quarterback? No, we got a running quarterback. And if Justin Fields finishes the game with more rushing yards than Lamar Jackson, Mike Tomlin will have the biggest smile on his face of all time. So possibly, but I don't know. I'm not guaranteeing anything anymore. I can't do it.
Let's jump up to Angelo, who says Russ has some great fourth quarter stats this season. If he wins a playoff game or two, should he be back in the elite quarterback conversation?
Yes. Yes, he should. I mean, Russ went through, let's look at the end of the last couple of years of Russ, okay? Bad Seattle team. Bad Seattle team. That was getting worse. Pete Carroll was crumbling. The defense wasn't very good. He had some offensive weapons, but the offensive line was struggling. Bad Seattle team. That has gotten worse. Like, yeah, they had the Geno Smith spark. Nah, didn't last very long. Denver was a train wreck. And they tried, and then he wasn't wanted there anymore. Okay, great. Now he's here. You go back before that, Russ is elite, and Russ is a stud, and Russ has a weird reputation these days, but I don't know. I have never seen, like, Russ is the most genuine person I've ever met in my life, and that's not an exaggeration. And everybody in the locker room loves him. But I told you guys this, that when he left Denver, everybody in Denver told me how much they loved Russ, how good of a teammate Russell Wilson was, that there was the one or two weird people that were like, yeah, he's doing high knees on the plane. But like those people were not in the large majority of the teammates. So I don't know. I think the conversation should be, yes, he is an elite quarterback if he wins a playoff game or two. I don't know if it'll happen. I hate that people keep saying, oh, this is old, early Seahawks Russell Wilson. Like, no, dude, it's just Russell Wilson. This is just Russ. Like, he's a good quarterback. So I agree with you, and I think it should happen. Yes.
Let's go over to Chris's question, who says, hey, I'm going to the game Sunday. What time should I get to the gates? Also, I have pregame field passes.
That's sick. That is sick. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you get some good autographs. I would get there early. I think gates open at 11. I would get there. I would get there at 11. I would be in line before 11, to be very honest. If you're trying to get on there and meet as many people as possible. If you're not, if you're looking to do some tailgating and chilling, the gates move fast and you'll be okay. But I wouldn't risk it too far. I wouldn't get in line at noon and think that I'm good for a 1 o'clock game. Like, the latest I would be in line is probably 11 o'clock.
Let's go back to Unlimited Moonballs, who says, I don't think we see Justin Fields if the game is on the line.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. If it is a close game, Justin Fields will be on the bench with Russell Wilson out there. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, in a Steelers are up 7. It's same situation as the fake punt. Early in the game, get some things flowing, get the spark and the juices rolling. That's when I could see a Justin Fields package. Definitely not late in the game.
Let's jump over to Greg, who says, do you guys have any superstitions before the games?
When I was growing up and I was more of a fan, yes, 100%. And while I enjoy the Pittsburgh Steelers winning and I'm always pro player, so I want these guys to do well and I want these guys to win, I have to keep myself unbiased. Mm-hmm. So I don't do anything to like spark a Steelers win anymore. I know that hurts. It hurts me a little bit. It hurts childhood Noah a little bit every time I say it. But no, my superstition goes more towards let's have a good work day. Mm-hmm. So I get up, I do my what are they calling them? My hot guy walks or something? Hot boy summer walks. I do my 30-minute walk first thing in the morning. Yeah, they're nice, dude. Nice. I got the treadmill set up right here. Actually, it's a good time. And then I, read a little book and I get on my way.
Yeah, the only thing that I do, and it's not really even a superstition, I always have my grandfather's terrible towel with me. Just watching the Steelers. It's not as much of a superstition as it is a tradition and something that just personally, it gives me a little bit of comfort. It has nothing to do with the team, but gives me a little bit of comfort.
Yeah. That's a good one. And the walkover. And we do the walkover.
And I always do the walkover because it's premium content. But
premium.
Let's go over to Austin, who says, what are your thoughts on Kyle Hamilton as a player? He's had some Palomalu comparisons because he plays near the line of scrimmage, but he reminds me of the Jamal Adams, who is a glorified linebacker.
No, I think Kyle Hamilton's much
Better.
more a ball oriented than Jamal Adams is. He doesn't have good hands. He's got bad hands, but Jamal Adams can't locate the ball. Like Jamal Adams is going to get burnt trying to locate or trying to run down a wide receiver or stick with a tight end, any of that. Kyle Hamilton could do all that. He's just not going to come down with a pass because, bricks. And I do think he's got some Troy Polamalu when it comes to his ability to play at the line of scrimmage. And I think Kyle Hamilton could be the best safety in the NFL potential in the next couple of years. I would like to see that grow. He's not a Jamal Adams. He's not a Troy Polamalu, but he's definitely better than a Jamal Adams.
Let's jump down to Steven. Appreciate you as always, Steven says, if Russ starts the season, what is our record right now?
We're both thinking it.
Yeah.
We're both thinking it. It's 9-0. The Steelers are 9-0 if Russ starts also. You don't lose to Dallas. There's no chance you lose to Dallas. And there's probably no chance you lose to Indianapolis either, because even if that's the thing is, even when the defense is struggling, like Russ is going to score more than 20 points like they did against Dallas. And Russ is not going to go down as much as they went down against Indianapolis. He's not going to make the fumble play that Justin made. And in that 2-minute drive, like there's not going to be the snap issues or anything. It's as crazy as it sounds, 9-0. As crazy as it sounds, if I had to guess, it's 9-0.
All righty. Let's jump over to Chef Russie Daddy, who says, do the Steelers have a better chance of beating the Chiefs than the Bills do this week?
Yeah. The Bills are beat up. The Bills are a really good football team. Really good football team. If I had to rank the best football teams in the NFL right now, the Detroit Lions would be number 1 and the Buffalo Bills would be number 2. And they're phenomenal, but they're beat up. And because of that, it's a bad week to play the Chiefs. I hope they beat them. I think the Chiefs are going to beat them. I think the Chiefs are going to beat them to spark the conversation of, oh, the Chiefs are real. This is it, man. The Chiefs are the greatest team of all time. Just to kind of, amp it up a little bit before it falls down.
Let's jump down to YouTube user. Appreciate you as always. Says, will Najee miss any time?
No, he'll be back on Sunday. I don't expect him to practice this week, like I said earlier, but I do think he will be. I'm almost positive he'll be playing on Sunday.
Let's go to Colton Strong, who says, what will Mike Williams' role be going forward?
I think he takes a minor step forward this week. Probably he played 9 snaps last week. I would say 25 snaps this week, 20 to 30 snaps, somewhere in that realm. And then after that, probably the same against Cleveland because it's a short week. And then Cincinnati, full-blown Mike Williams, welcome to the team. Here we go. You are alive and well. That being said, Van Jefferson is dealing with a quad injury. So if that limits him, Mike Williams will get more snaps. But right now, I anticipate if Van Jefferson is playing 25 to 30 snaps, 20 to 30 snaps right in that ballpark with a couple more passes and definitely more involved in the offense.
And let's finish it off with Angelo, who says Cam had 2 sacks last game, and he's at 85.5 for his career. Do you think he cracks 100 before he hangs him up?
Oh, I would love to say yes. But what's he at? Let's look it up right now.
85.5?
Yeah, but what's he at this season? That's the question. This season he's at 5 already this season. I mean, he could get another 5 this season, and then he just got to get 10 another time. I think he's going to be very close. I think he'd be very, very close. It's hard to predict the fall off with Cam Hayward, but it's also very hard to say a 36-year-old is going to put up 10 sacks next season. So I want to say he's going to get close. I hope he does it. I know few people who deserve to do it more than Cam Hayward, so I would love to see it happen. But I think it's going to be neck and neck coming down the wire there. It would be awesome to see him do it though.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, Find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back tomorrow. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.